So hi everyone, welcome to our webinar on Power Platform. I'm Kamesh, I work at Atna Technologies, and today I'm going to take you through this journey on Power Platform. So let's go ahead. So today in this Power Platform webinar, we are going to discuss on introduction to Power Platform, the different Power Platform components, how the Power Platform will be helpful in the business. Then we will go through an actual product demonstration. Then we will take Q&A. So the first two slides are meant to cover all the basics of Power Platform before we deep down into the actual Power Platform and how it is used in the business, to just give an overview. So what is Power Platform? Power Platform comprises of Microsoft Power Apps, Power BI, and Power Automate. These three together become a powerful business applications platform that is called the Power Platform. If you look at this diagram below, it has three specific components laid out: Power Automate, Power Apps, and Power BI. Your journey can start from any one of these. In this demonstration, I'm going to go with Power BI. So in my organization, I have all my data with me. Power BI helped me visualize that data. It gave me an output like, hey, this is how the company is performing. I saw some bottlenecks. So what I did was I decided to create an app for me. So I created an app. That app helped me streamline some of the business processes. Then it acted again and reverted the flow back to Power BI. Then I analyzed it again. Then I felt, hey, these are the bottlenecks. I created another app for it. Similarly, after doing multiple iterations, I found out certain set of processes were repetitive. They were carried out over and over and over again. So I decided to automate them. So there are three things here. The first thing, you act on something, you analyze something, and then you automate it. And this process or cycle can continuously repeat till you achieve efficiency. So let's go ahead and look at one of the Microsoft case studies that actually shows how they used Power Automate to increase their production efficiency as well as help them achieve better.
So G&J Pepsi, we've been around for about 100 years. We have 13 locations in central, southern Ohio, eastern Kentucky. We have about 1,600 employees. We got into Power Apps about 18 months ago. We were in during the beta program. We really drive to kind of look for those next cutting edge technologies that's going to enhance our business, enhance revenue, and cut costs, and also kind of just streamline our business and make our people more efficient so we can sell more product. So we were trying to do a lot more with mobile, but we didn't have any professional developers on staff in order to do that. When we saw Power Apps, it just felt like a no-brainer for us. We fell in love with it. We were working with it even before it went to general availability. When Microsoft did launch Power Apps in GA or general availability, we went live with our first application.
So Eric has never really done a lot of app development around here or any real programming development for us. Most of his work has been in the cloud space. So when he took over at Power Apps, it was really a new beginning for him to start programming apps for G&J. So it was unique to see how quickly he went from almost zero programming skills to developing a full app and rolling that out in literally 3 to 4 months.
The Store Audit Center in Power Apps allows us to quickly communicate any kind of tasks that need to complete in the marketplace to our account managers and communicate driver notes to our drivers, routing instructions to our logistics team, and also follow up on any out of stocks or signage issues.
We can't have empty shelves, right? We just can't lose to our competition just because we have empty shelves. That's where Power Apps comes into play. That's where Flow comes into play. That's where Power BI comes into play. Is they're helping us, ensure proper execution. They're helping us improve on execution. They're exposing where we're not executing.
Every day we have 70 to 80 trucks running out of this building. They have 140 different parking spots that those trucks can be put in. As you can see, all the trucks look the same. If you're a driver, how do you know which truck is yours for the day?
Why do you need an application to tell a guy what spot you're in? But when you talk about the size and the amount of trucks that Columbus has, that we can't have drivers who have certain windows to meet to deliver products that our customers walking through our parking lot.
So we developed an app that allows the warehouse to mark where each truck is parked. In the morning, the driver simply opens his phone, checks his email, and it tells him exactly where his truck is parked.
What we discovered with Power Apps and Power BI and Flow is that when used in conjunction with each other, it created a digital feedback loop that allowed us to collect data that we've never been able to collect before, store it, and then Power BI is pulling that in, and then we're able to report on it and make sense of what we're seeing, make sense of what we've never seen before.
Power BI allows us to look for trends where we're strong and at the same time trends where we're weak, and allows us to make any adjustments in how we go to market.
We feel like there's hundreds, if not thousands, of processes that we feel like Power Apps, Power BI, and Flow are going to allow us to tackle those challenges that we have that are not digital currently.
So the journey for us really with Power Apps and Power BI started with Power BI. So along that journey, we decided that it wasn't just about reporting on the data. There was so much new information that they wanted to show in Power BI. So Power BI actually helped drive Power Apps for us, because we actually used Power Apps to gather that information to then deliver it downstream to Power BI. So in essence, Power BI kind of was the birth of Power Apps for us.
So now let's move forward to and relate to what we saw in that video. So they use Power Apps, they use Power BI, and they use Power Automate. So we are going to go into a bit like what these mean. So Power App is a low-code or a no-code development platform that will help you create apps in lightning fast speeds and highly robust apps. So whenever we think about creating application, what we think is, hey, it takes a lot of time to develop the same. So this is something that is addressed. You can create apps very easily and very quickly. The second part is Power BI. Power BI is an analytics and intelligence tool, so it will help you analyze and visualize your data. And once you do that, you gain insights onto your business. And then you can figure out what are the bottlenecks, where you can improve, thus increasing the efficiency. And then you can also connect it to a variety of data sources. Power Virtual Agents is an integral part of Power Automate and can be used across all the four. So what are virtual agents? These are chatbots. So let's assume whenever we log into our banking app, you might see a small chatbot either on the left or right hand side screen saying you, hey, would you like to ask me some questions? That is what a chatbot is. We can ask them a variety of questions. Let's say I asked it, what is the balance in my account? It gives you an answer. So how can we use it? Something like that. So let's say your customers have an inquiry. So what happens is they just ask it, hey, can I receive these items? Are these items available in stock? So rather than picking up the phone and trying to contact someone from sales, they can just go inside your portal and ask that questions to the bot, and that will get answered. And also it will, in case of service industries, it can also help you. Let's say if somebody wants to find out their warranty information. So the applications are endless. And then Power Automate. Power Automate is an RPA. So when I say RPA, it means robotic process automation. The core task of this is to minimize repetitive tasks by creating workflows. And what can happen is you can use these workflows either for Microsoft applications or third-party applications. And when I say third-party applications, I mean the list is extensive. You can use it with SAP, you can use it with Oracle, JD Edwards, Tally, it's up to you. It can integrate to all of them to make sure that you have a completely running processes. What happens when we use this is, it decreases the amount of time that it takes to input your data, decreasing the errors and increasing the efficiency. Now that we understood what the basics of Power Platform is, let's go ahead into how we can use Power Platform in business. So there are three key actions like we have seen in the video and we discussed before. Analyze, act, and automate. So what is analyze? You go through your data, you understand how your system or company is performing. On the basis of that, you derive insights. What would you do with those insights? You would act on it. How would you act? If you see there is a limitation, you create a new app so that can be tracked. Or you see, hey, that's a repetitive task. So what if I automate it? Then you go ahead and automate the same. So this will create a loop. So until unless that loop stops, you will have an efficient business. Now coming to the second point, that is the integration to Microsoft ecosystem and third-party applications. So Microsoft ecosystem constitutes of, say, Outlook, Teams, SharePoint, the list is endless. And also they made sure that the third-party applications can also be bought in. Let's say I have SAP running on the backend, or I have Oracle running in the backend. So, and I use Teams. So they provided a framework in which you can have your data flow from Teams to Oracle, or Teams to SAP, or Teams to any third-party applications. And that third-party applications are not just limited to the ERP solutions. I use Gmail, I can put that in. I use Google Cloud, I can put that in. I use AWS, that is the Amazon Web Services, I can put that in. So the list of third-party applications are limitless, and those can be brought on to Microsoft ecosystem. And when we talk about third-party applications, that's where the 150 plus connectors out of the box comes in. They are shipped with 150 out of connectors, and you can define your own connectors as well. What are these connectors? The connectors are the sources that you will use in order to enable flow of data. Then if you have so many different third-party applications, then there is cross-platform. So whenever we design to build a new app, what happens is different people have different set of devices. Somebody uses Android, somebody is working on a Windows device, somebody is using an iOS, somebody is working on Linux. So what they have provided is, by using the cross-platform development, a single app that is being developed in Power Platform can be utilized across all of those platforms without even having to rebuild that app again for that specific platform. Fifth point is using AI with ease. And when we talk about AI, we all get a concern. AI is costly because it takes a lot of time to implement. So that's what we are trying to address here as well. So what we are trying to achieve with Power Platform is there are multiple scenarios that come out of the box. So let's say you want to use AI for your business, it's already out of the box. We will see in the next slide some of the scenarios that are available with AI. So it's easier to implement, and it will give you a more efficient way of doing or sorting through objects. Then you can create business specific workflows. And when I say business specific workflows, let's say a person who is working on the shop floor, he's trying to do something. So he's trying to look up for an inventory of an item, and there is no inventory. So he writes it on a small piece of paper and he forwards it to the store. The store looks up in their inventory and they're like, hey, this item isn't available in the inventory. So they take that piece of paper, create a requisition, and send it to your purchase manager, and so on. So now at certain stage, somebody is like, who raised this request in the first place? So that small piece of paper was lost somewhere. So there is no link. So what you can do is, using Power Platform, you can create an app or automate the same so that none of the processes are skipped, thus reinforcing the validations on business processes. So let's say we do a purchase, right? So we create a purchase order, we do a purchase receipt, and then we do a purchase invoice. Three-way matching. So what happens now is the ERP solution takes care of that. What if before entering the data onto the ERP, we can do the check before itself? It's just one of the examples of what we can do, but the amount of validations are limitless that you want to put, thus giving you a more efficient business process. Now let's go to some of the use cases that can be used. So one of the most important ones is automating incoming documents. We have multiple purchase order, lots of documents are coming in that we have to process. So we can automate the same. Let's say you receive a purchase invoice from a vendor. What Power Platform can do is it can take that, extract data from it, open up your ERP solution, feed data onto that ERP, and close it off. We didn't have to do it, so it was automated. Similarly, we can do the same with sales, purchase, and inventory functions as well. Let's say a customer sends you a mail, hey, I want to purchase this item. So rather than looking it up, going inside the ERP and trying to handle it that way, what if Automate can read it up for you, pick up that information, create a sales order for you, and ask you, hey, would you like to post it? Then you say, yes, it creates a sales invoice for you. How easy would that be? The second portion is also another example, that is payments processing. So what happens is the vendor sends you an invoice there. He's like, hey, can you please process the same? You go look up that invoice, then you create those entries inside your ERP solution or however you maintain it, then you post it. We can automate that as well. Now the third portion, as we talked about, using AI. So there are multiple out-of-the-box scenarios. Some of them are object detection. What object detection means is, let's say you have a bunch of pictures. And out of that pictures, we need to sort through certain items. So AI can identify, hey, this is a bicycle. Hey, this is a pen. This is a paper. It can do that for you. And what will be the good point of it? We can use object detection to improve our quality processes. Let's say a glass is broken. We can teach it to identify that, and it can do that for you. Then there is sentiment analysis. Whenever we come to sentiment analysis, I think about customer experience. So let's say we sell to a lot of different people, and then they give us feedbacks like, hey, I like this product very much, the service was very good. Then somebody is like, the service was very good, but the packaging was damaged, or something like that. So what happens is somebody has to sit, go through all of them, and then say, hey, these many people aren't unhappy with it, so we have to take care of that. So rather than going it that way, what if we use AI for that? It will go through all of those comments, do a sentiment analysis, and just give you an output like you receive 75% positive feedback, 25% mediocre, and 5% was saying packaging damage. This will help you visualize like, hey, these are my bottlenecks. So if I improve on the packaging front, I can make this 5% happy. Then you have category classification. Let's say all of us have a common mailbox on the top of our invoices, right? Contact us, we have a mail ID. Lot of people send mails onto that asking for inquiries, for purchase requests, whatnot. So if somebody has to go through all those mails, it becomes really hard to keep a track of that. So why not employ AI for doing that? It can go through those mails, understand the category of that, and classify them. It can say, hey, this looks like a financial email, send it to financial inboxes. Hey, this looks like a purchase, send it to purchase, and so on. So it will do it on the back end without having a person go through each and every one of the mails. And then there is prediction. Let's say you have chronological data kept for you. So what it can do is it can look up all those data, and then it can give you an insight. It can say, hey, the possibility of something happening. It can say, hey, I see for this month, there can be 15% increase in our sales of an item A. It can do those predictions for you. So this is how the AI can be used in a much more efficient and easier way to improve business processes. Now coming to another section, help service desk and customer experience. So if you remember in the last slide, we talked much briefly about virtual agents. So let's say currently there is a sales inquiry. So somebody calls your company and he is like, hey, I want to purchase this item. Is this available? Somebody picks up the phone and then he answers them back. What if that person is busy? Then somebody tried calling you, couldn't reach, so they moved on to the next person. So what if we can minimize that? So what we can do is we can have a virtual agent sitting on your portal. So rather than trying to connect to someone, they can just ask, is this item available for purchase? And the system can give them the answer. Rather than having to go and search for something, they can get the answers right there. They want to know what is the warranty information. We just type it there. Hey, the device serial number is 123456. What is the warranty status? It says, hey, it expires 1 year from now. And then we just discussed about customer experience, so you can track that as well. And then coming to sales, purchase, and accounts planning. Let's assume we all are sitting in a meeting room. We are discussing, hey, we have to increase our sales. So what are the items that are getting sold the most? So we use the analysis function of it. And then we are like, hey, item A gets sold a lot. So then we are like, yes, if we increase the production of this item, then it would be good. So how would it feel? So that we open the app in the same meeting room and we are like, what if we increase 5% of this item? That syncs up to all the people sitting in that particular meeting, and everybody says, yeah, I like it, I like it. Depending upon how much was voted, that automatically gets transferred to a guy in the production floor stating, hey, increase the production by 5%. So it can also convert that 5% into quantitative and give it to the person, hey, make 500 more pieces of this item. And also, if you have integration done, then it can actually go ahead and do that production forecast for you inside your ERP or any other third-party application. So that's what you can do here as well. Fourth one, another one is employee onboarding. So what is employee onboarding? So let's say currently, as an example, our current process is like we go on to a job portal, we look up certain set of individuals, then we interview them. There are certain steps, right? So what happens sometimes is we miss certain steps, then we have to backtrace them. So we can create a small application and automate it so that no steps are being skipped. So system can reinforce like after this is done, then only this can be done. So first you need to find someone, input the data, then you do the interview. We can even set the questions. So one after the next, you can do that. And last but not the least, 2020, so COVID-19. So you can create a crisis management app there that will help you track the health insurances and everyone inside the company in a much more easier fashion. So now that we understood the capabilities of Power Platform, the different use cases, now let's go ahead and look at the demonstration of it. So today I'm going to act as an accounts manager. As accounts manager, I have tons of different responsibilities. I have to handle AP, I have to handle AR, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and I do many other tasks as well. So what my scenario today is, I received an invoice that I have to process payment on. I'm looking up that invoice and then I started typing it on my system. And somebody is like, hey Kay, can you just help me with this? I kept that invoice for a while. I tried to talk to this person here. Somebody else came, stacked some more documents onto my table. And once that was done, I came back and I inserted something wrong on what I was processing. It's not due to my fault, it's because the amount of workload that I have, it can happen that I miss some things. So that got me thinking, what can I do to minimize this? I was trying to figure something out. So then I thought maybe I can use Power Platform to do the same. So I started thinking about it. So then I came across a plan. My plan is like this. I'll receive a mail. Okay, I got all my invoices. It can be either in PDF, it can be in JPEG, it doesn't matter. I can receive it in any format. Okay. So what can I do next? What I want to do is I will use Power Automate to find out if that mail came from a vendor or from inside my company. Okay, check, it's done. What I want to do is there can be multiple attachments, right? So I want to take care of those attachments. Flow took care of that. I got my attachments in place. Check. What's next? I just have those attachments, right? I still need to read them. What if I let the AI builder do the same? So what will happen is these invoices will go into the AI builder, and I taught my AI builder to read those attachments. So what it will do is it will go through all those attachments, find out all the relevant columns by using OCR, that is optical character reading. Then what it will do is it will find those out and it will extract invoice number, vendor name, amount to be paid, invoice date, etc., etc. As many things that I see fit, I can extract all of them and create proper usable fields for them. So I have extracted information from my attachments as well. Done. What's next? I don't want the system to go ahead and process that. I still want to see it up, hey, whether everything is okay. So I have my teams in place. So what happens is it actually diverts a message to teams stating, hey, Kamesh, this particular thing came up. Do you like this invoice? Would you like to process it? And it gives me 3 options. I created those options because I wanted it that way. So I have 3 options. One says approved. That's if I select that, it will go ahead and process the same. And if suppose I have some doubt in my head, then I will choose manual. So I will process it later, sometime once I have time. Otherwise, if I know there is something wrong with that invoice, on the first glance, I can be like, hey, I want to reject it. I will look it up sometime later or discuss with the vendor. Okay, so now let's say I select approve. What would happen is it will go into UI flows. UI flows is a part of Power Automate where UI stands for user interface flows. So how would you do the transaction is you would go ahead, open your ERP, type in your things, post it and then close it, right? So UI flows emulates that. And if you remember, we talked about minimizing repetitive action. That's what it will do. I don't have to go and type something onto my ERP. It will be taken care of by UI flows. all the data that I have collected from my AI model will be passed on to that. And then it will open up my solution. Here I am putting Microsoft Dynamics Nav because that's what I'm using for this demo. You can replace it with any application that you see fit. It can be Dynamics Nav, it can be Business Central, it can be SAP, it can be Oracle, JD Edwards, it can even be Excel text file. It's up to you. You can replace it what you wanted and the system will work. And after doing all those entries, it will come back to me on Teams and say, hey Kamesh, I posted those entries, so you're good. You don't have to do them again. That's what I wanted. And again, if I reject it, I want a message onto my Teams stating, hey Kamesh, this has been rejected. So the components that we are using here is Outlook, Power Automate, the AI model, the Teams, and then any application where we do our processing. So now let's go and look the same onto our demo system. So this is my demo system. So before we get into it, let me give you some basics on the same. So if you look on the right hand side corner of the screen, there is a button here. I have just pointed on it on the right hand side corner. So here it says UI flows. So this button is important. So what happens is the moment the system takes control, this will light up. So as soon as this comes up, I will guide you through the same as well. That means I am not the person who is controlling the system. It's Power Platform who is doing the same. On the Teams front, I have actually created some channels here. So the channels that I have are the AP department, right? So I have some for manual entries. I have some for processed invoices and for some rejected invoices. And these are the places where all my entries will get populated. So let's say I'm doing some transaction, it will get reverted to these specific folders. Good. And then I have my chat screen. And this is where Power Platform will divert entries and ask me certain set of questions. Good. So now let's go ahead and do the same. Before doing that, let me show you Dynamics Nav 2016 that I have here. So let me open this up real quick. Let me go into my vendors here. So I have a vendor here that's called Fabricam INC. So let me edit this up. You see there are no transactions here for Fabricam INC. And there are certain payments to be processed for it. Okay. And then let's assume the vendor sends you a mail. So in this case, as I don't have any vendors to emulate that, so I'm sending mail to myself. But you can replace that with any vendor who's sending you the mail. So I have 3 separate invoices here, right? Let us go and look at one of the invoices. So let me open this up. So if you can see, there are certain contents on the screen, right? There is an invoice number, there is a date here, then followed by the total value of the invoice, and so on. So I can extract everything from that invoice. So the process starts as soon as the mail is received onto the inbox. So what happens is, let me send this mail to myself. So my Outlook came with, hey, Kamesh, a mail was received, right? So as soon as you receive this particular mail, if you come to the Microsoft Teams here, you see it's asking you a bunch of questions here. It's asking me, hey, received an invoice for this much value from a vendor Fabricam for invoice number this, dated this. Now, where did it get this information from? So if you remember that invoice here, it contained all those information. So I didn't have to find it. It extracted it all and it put it onto my Teams for me to read. Then I was like, hey, yeah, I remember this one. This looks good. So I'm going to approve the same. So as soon as you click on approve, then it asks you a question. Do you want to enter some comments? I'm like, yes, I do want to enter some comments. So I was like, approved on. I type in the date, set 22nd. October 2020, and I would also like to put on date. I did it at 206. The server time is set to 206, so it's 206. Then I'm like, hey, yeah, go ahead and process the same. Once I click on submit here, now you need to divert your attention to what I said before, that UI icon on the bottom. So if it highlights, that means I'm not the person who is controlling the screen. So it came up. So at this point, Microsoft Power Platform takes over. More specifically, Automate takes over and does that thing done for me. So if you can see, it is doing everything by itself. So it clicks on the payment journal and goes ahead and process the same. So let's wait for it to do that. So it actually gave me another message here stating, hey, this is the second invoice that needs to be processed. So I'm going to go ahead and process the same now. So if I just click on approve here and then say, hey, the comments are like, please approve the same. Sabardin, can you see my screen?
Yes, Kamesh, go ahead.
Sure. Just allow me a sec. I think I lost my connection for a while, okay? I'm just going to reset it. Just allow me a sec. Okay, so let's assume this is the first invoice that we received. So I'm going to put up some comments here that I'm approving the same. And I just click on submit. So what will happen is it will go ahead, take this, as I said before, once the UI flow takes over, it will run on the backend and it will go ahead and post that for me. So it opens Dynamics Nav. It will go to the payment journals all by itself and start processing the same. So if you can see, just clicked on payment journal. So it starts typing everything that it has collected. So it knows it's a payment. It types the external document number, that is the invoice number that it extracted. It types in the vendor code all on itself. Then it goes ahead, whatever you write there, it will keep it up here like a narration. Followed by, it puts up the value that was on that particular invoice, that was 900 bucks. Then it posts the same, and it also closes Dynamics Nav. Now what's the importance of this is, once the transaction was done, it closed Dynamics Nav, thus saving you licenses. So while it was trying to do the transaction, it opened up Dynamics Nav, posted the transaction, and closed Dynamics Nav on itself, thus saving you licenses. Now, once it did the same here, the next step that happens is it keeps on sending you the request, right? So I had one more invoice. So that will come up here as well. So in the meanwhile, let me just go into my Teams here and go to processed invoices here. So if you can see, whatever you did there, right, it came up here as well inside my processed invoices channel, checking, hey, this invoice had been processed automatically. So let's say if I wanted to go ahead and look at what were the processed invoices, I don't have to go inside my system and do the same. It just listed here. So now let me just go back onto my chat and onto my flows. I have again 3 sets of options here. And this case, I'm like, I'm not very confident about this. So I'm just going to click on manual. And then I will say, I will do this later. Maybe something. So once I click on submit, what will happen is it will take another set of flows. And then it won't process it because you said whenever I do it manual, I will do my own entries. It comes to team here and places it inside the manual entries. So if you can see there, it actually placed that. So what it did was, as soon as the mail was received, it went ahead, processed those particular invoices that were the attachments, extracted these things from this particular invoice, and then used them to do the entries on your system. So now let's go ahead and look up Microsoft Dynamics Nav here. I posted one of the transactions, right? So let's go ahead and look that up. So if I open my Dynamics Nav here, come to vendors, open up Fabricam INC. You can see now the $900 that was posted is available here with all the messages and everything that you have kept in place. So rather than going to have to read that invoice, type everything myself, I let Power Automate take care of it. I didn't even have to go and type the data onto Dynamics Nav. And also I got a feedback onto my teams stating, hey Kamesh, this has been done, this hasn't been done. So if I wanted to look at all the manual entries, I just go and click here. It shows me all the manual entries. If I want to look at what were processed, I can do this. This is one of the scenarios that can be covered. There are multiple like this. So now let's go ahead and look again at what we did. So we received our mail on Outlook that had 3 separate invoices. I used Power Automate to extract those attachments. Done. I did them sequentially. I used AI model to extract data from it. Done. That came back to me on Teams and asked me questions. I answered that whether it was rejected, approved, or manual. Once I did that, it went to the UI flows. After UI flows, what the UI flows did was open up Dynamics Nav and post my entries for me. Then it came back to the teams stating, hey Kamesh, this has been done. This is one of the scenarios that we are covering here. So the ways that you can use it is unlimited. And you can replace Dynamics Nav with anything that you have in place. If we had to do the same process with say SAP, it would have open SAP there, did your transaction for you, and close up that particular application. And you can have variety of different options set here as well. You can have multiple approvals using workflows, and everything can be embedded onto this platform. So this is the overview on the entire Power Platform, including a demo.